That last thought from the last video, I think, can be found, put things together here on page 4 of Kant's essay. But to renounce such enlightenment completely, whether for his own person or even more so for later generations, means violating and trampling underfoot the sacred rights of mankind. What I take Kant to be getting at is that we have a destiny, as he says, that enlightenment is our destiny, and the way to get there is free speech, the free exchange of ideas. And were we to eliminate some space for that exchange of ideas, we would be committing a crime against our very destiny and nature. It is our sacred right to move towards enlightenment, and therefore it's our sacred right we have a sacred right to the means towards that enlightenment, which is a space for free speech. Now, there's much more to say about the essay itself, what it says about the balance between civil liberty and freedom of speech, its historical context, what Kant might and might not have accepted. But it does seem to me that he is endorsing, at the very least, the notion that there has to be a place within any society that wants enlightenment for an absolutely free arena for the exchange of ideas. But free speech is a good in itself, and moreover, that it will lead to goods. And that's really what I think we're getting at here in this unit of the course. Does free speech always lead to goods? And that's one of the things that I want to bring up, because although I have no conclusive opinion about that, that is whether our age, the age of the internet, has proven Kant to be right or wrong. It's at least shaken, I think, to anybody who's thoughtful, the, I would say, almost naive belief of Kant that free speech will always be conducted by people who are people of goodwill. And this brings us to a lot of different issues, but I thought I'd throw it out there, the issue of so-called fake news. The internet provides the kind of arena for free speech that would fall within the scope of the kind of thing that Kant was doing. But I don't think Kant in the 18th century, publishing, in a newspaper, which was new. I think I actually looked it up. It wasn't news. It was a monthly magazine, a Berlin magazine, or a Berlin monthly. I don't even know if they called them magazines or newspapers then, but it was a publication. That was a new sort of thing, in the 18th century. So he was kind of taking advantage of the cutting edge communication technology of his time. But surely he could not have imagined anything like the global, universal arena of free speech that the internet is. And one of the things I want you to think about is whether Kant would endorse free speech in as full a throat today as he did in 1784. Again, I'm not trying to say that we should censor the internet. I'm not trying to say we shouldn't. And later in this section of the course, we'll talk about censorship of the internet. Like, a lot of the world censors its internet, China being the most prominent, but other countries, other regions of the world do not have a free exchange of ideas on the internet. And we think about whether, that seems like a bad idea on the face of it to a Western person, an American person, let's say, but it's not a bad idea to everybody. But I wanted to explore some of the fateful consequences of free speech on the internet. One of them is fake news. And I'd like you to take a look at, this Pizzagate thing, which is a serious matter. People making up stuff, just making up stuff and presenting it as fact. In this case, making up stuff, completely false stuff, and devoting subreddits to it. The idea that somehow Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party were involved in child trafficking through a pizza place in Washington, D.C. I mean, it's a completely false and loony idea. But it was talked about on the internet as if it were real amongst a group of people, like-minded people, and it eventually prompted an individual to go to Washington D.C. with an automatic weapon and check it out for himself. And he was thankfully didn't hurt anybody with his rifle in a pizza place looking for evidence of the child trafficking. I hope he's still in jail because he's a dangerous person, but he was certainly prompted to do this by his gullibility, frankly. And I just included a lot of other sort of what I thought were relevant news articles and things, really about the way that things get spoken about on the internet by people who are either seemingly not in touch with reality or just are simply looking to put one over on other people. But this is free speech. This is our, one of the consequences of having absolutely free speech is that you may not have people of goodwill. Kant was thinking of people like himself. He characterized. He's kind of, to put it in some context. He doesn't live in a free society. I mean, he doesn't live in a self-governing democracy or republic. He lives in a kingship, basically, a principality. Frederick the Great is the person he's talking to, who's kind of the absolute ruler of Prussia. It's no Germany at this time. It's a principality, I guess, of Prussia. And he's telling Frederick, I suppose, listen, you may have some fears about free speech. You may have some fears that are legitimate fears, but fear not. Because we free thinkers, we intellectuals, we scholars can be trusted. We're people of goodwill. We're not going to say just anything. We're going to use our understanding in a respectable way. And the kind of ideas that we may promote and the kind of criticisms of your society and even you that we promote will be responsible. And one of the things, and again, I'm not trying to come to any definite conclusions on this issue, but one of the things that I have to wonder about is whether Kant was being naive. That is, having a arena for free speech, I think, is something that we all probably want, and maybe even feel with Kant that we need. But we may not share his optimism about the people who utilize that arena. And certainly that arena of free speech has changed tremendously since Kant's time. We don't live in the age of newspapers anymore and magazines and, the kind of limited access to the public arena that existed really for everyone before the internet. I mean, in the old days, to be able to get a voice, let's say in the New York Times or the Washington Post or the Philadelphia Inquirer or the Atlantic Monthly, or to be able to give a speech like Martin Luther King to thousands of people was a rare event for a human being, and very few actually had access to it. But when you did have access to it, you spoke to a lot of people. It seems to me that the internet has changed things, and insofar as it's opened up free expression to everybody, that we're all addressing someone, but many times that audience is not the kind of wide audience that a New York Times editorial, at least at one time, or a speech in front of the Lincoln Memorial might have given a human being. It's a limited audience, and it can be hard to get heard on the internet since it's open to everybody. There's a lot more competition. But in any case, it's easier to access free speech, and it's easier to bandy things about. And I think that perhaps Kant may have different ideas these days. Or maybe not, I don't know. But this is why I put the Kant thing up there, and this is where I'd like to start in examining this issue of speech and information and how the ethics of it might be changing in a sort of Jonasian way as a result of technology, in this case, of course, computer technology and the internet.